Good morning and welcome to a new week. This is a new edition, the 10th edition of Starting and Managing Your Business Amid COVID. My name is Dele Ayimibo and this program is brought to you courtesy National Youth Pastor to be able to help every one of us to effectively manage this period, begin to do something for ourselves and reduce the impact of the challenges in the economy on our own personal economy, actually. We've been discussing about principles. We still have about 2 or 3 sessions to go on principles. And like I said, when we started discussing principles, that the fact that due to the fact I don't know the business you would like to do, hence the need for me to use principle to drive the conversation so that it can be applied to just any area of any kind of business you ought to do or you want to do afterwards. And it's been shown that to succeed in any venture, knowing the why is more important than knowing the how. In fact, knowing the why has been attributed to about 90% of the success, and that knowing the how is for the remaining. So basically saying that the technical know-how is not as important as the principle, because if you know the why, then it becomes easier for you to be able to bear the how. Someone say, when you know why, you can bear anyhow. I'm just laying credence to the reason why principle become extremely important in our conversation. And I've also talked about the fact that many businesses that started failed within a space of 1 year, 20% fail. In a place of 2 years, 35% fail. In a place of 3 years, 46% fail. In a space of 4 years, 54% fail. In a space of 5 years, 60% fail. And this is happening in countries where things work to a large extent. And by the 10th year, 75% have failed. This is an important lesson for every one of us, such that at the end of the day, it makes it a lot easier for us to begin to take everything we do extremely seriously. Everything we do extremely seriously by applying the right principle in order to make that thing a success. By applying the right principle in order to make that thing a success. So today we're going to be looking at the law of accident. We're also going to look at the law of persistence and also the law of problem interpretation. And in 2 weeks' time, next week and upper week, we'll be looking at the remaining areas, the law of problem expiration, the law of service, the law of better results, the law of increasing poverty, the law of finding or discovery, and the law of nomenclature. Nomenclature. The law of accident we are looking at today says everything left to chance without plan of action and definite decision made will result in accident. Imagine a car. Today you have autonomous cars. Autonomous cars have artificial intelligence that drives it. Else, it's going to be confronted with the law of accident if nothing is driving it. Autonomous cars have artificial intelligence driving it. And because autonomous cars have artificial intelligence driving it, it's not subject to the law of accident, which says everything left to chance without plan of action will result in an accident. So, for example, a number of people were affected in COVID because of the law of accident. Many live their life to chance. Many live their finances to chance. Many live their future to chance. To chance in the sense that there is no plan of action. Because what you do today, the effort you make today is what dictates what you get tomorrow. And because there was no plan of action, deliberate effort being made. Corona happened, the accident occurred. Corona happened, the accident occurred. Corona happened, the accident occurred. everything left to chance, without plan of actions and definite decision made, will result in accident. Will result in accident. So if a business does not have a driver, this is the place of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship. The place of the head. The head. The head must be thinking. The head must be thinking. If the head is affected, it becomes a major challenge for the progress of that body. If the head is affected, it becomes a major problem for the head of that body. Why? For the future of that body, because the head is affected. Because the head is affected. Because the head is affected. You know, let me digress a little and let's look at something in scriptures that we're very much familiar with, but maybe you have asked yourself some question about those issues to be able to understand why will God do what he did in the land of Egypt? Why will he do those things? What was God trying to demonstrate to us? What picture was he trying to play for us? And the Pharaoh, the king in Egypt, realized the importance of the law we are looking at today. And that made him respond. I'm trying to emphasize how vital head is. So when you look at the plague in Egypt, it doesn't make sense. But if you look at it very well, it will make sense. It will make sense if you look at that plague of blood, the plague of boil, the plague of hails, the plague of locusts, the plague of darkness. What does this mean? It doesn't make sense. What exactly was God trying to do through that plague? What exactly was he trying to do? And until he hit the head, there was no response from Pharaoh. Because Pharaoh understands if the head is destroyed, this is an accident happening. This is an accident happening. This is an accident happening. Now, but when you look at what God was trying to do in Egypt, and I see that happen today in the world, when they want to captivate a nation, when they want to stop a nation from making progress, they sanction the nation. And the sanctions are likely economic sanctions to cripple the economy of the nation. So when they cripple the economy of the nation does not have money again, most likely they will respond by doing the right thing. So you have sanction against persons in countries, sanction against a sector of a country, sanction against the whole nations in terms of trade. So when you look at the plague of blood, that was affecting the input, because it was largely agrarian economy. Their input were affected. That will affect eventually their output and the economy. From the plague of frog to the plague of lice to the plague of flies, all were affecting the HR dimension, human resources. They could not go to work. Because they could not go to work, productivity is reduced. Because productivity is reduced, you know what happened? The economy is going on its knees. And then we have the livestock dimension, the plague of livestock, and then the plague of livestock, the plague of boil, the plague of hail, the plague of locusts, the plague of darkness. The plague of locusts and the plague of livestock affect their output. While the plague of boil, the plague of hail, and darkness affect the HR again. So likely HR dimension. So you have the input dimension, output dimension, and HR dimension. But you know what was interesting about Pharaoh? It didn't move him until the headship was hit. And the implication of that is that the nation was going for a complete halt. And until that happened, Pharaoh did not respond. Pharaoh did not respond. Pharaoh did not respond. And that's exactly also what happened in our world today. And also in business. When the head of a business is not thinking, the business is going to be grounded to a halt. It's going to hit a rock. It's going to have an accident. When the head is not thinking, the head must keep thinking. And you know, when you think, you query your database. When your database is shallow, the quality of thought will be very poor. When your database is shallow, the quality of thought will be very poor. When your database is shallow, the quality of thought will be very poor. That is why the head must keep learning to be able to think. The raw material for thinking is knowledge. So the business should not be left to accident. Let me give you an example. I'll use a personal example. Sorry about that, but let me just bring this point home. You know, before, I was just thinking about recently, before the COVID, we were looking at things to do as a business, like another level in what we do as a business. I was discussing with my team and my colleagues, and we're looking at what we can do to be able to ensure that we have a continuous professional development in the field where I play. And we came up with the idea, and we partnered with a school in the US, and we started that program. Now, you know what I discovered? Our regular kind of program or business or service that we render was capitated, destroyed, scattered, granted or held by COVID. But that continuous education development, because of the fact that it helped individuals to grow their income, their earning, and have a certification to show their skill, to demonstrate their skill, people were still interested and ready to pay for those services, even during COVID. And we started doing it online. Now, and I was thinking that if we had not taken that decision, our major source of earning sincerely would have been grounded to a halt. And this includes banks, an institution that give us training programs, and some training that we do for regular individuals, open training, not certification program. Because open training is at organization will decide if they are sending their staff, and they decide if they are going to do it. But the other one, people need to do it to increase their value in the marketplace, considering the fact that many people are losing their job. What am I trying to say in essence? The thinking that was done earlier surveyed this situation, and that was done about 2 years ahead of this time. What am I trying to say? The law of accident will always hit any individual, organization, country that refuse to plan ahead. That refuse to plan ahead. There must be a driver that is thinking and planning ahead. There must be a driver that is thinking and planning ahead. If that driver fails in its responsibility, the business will be grounded to a halt. It's just a matter of time. If that driver fails in its responsibility, the business will be grounded to a halt. It's just a matter of time. And this is a very, very important one, ladies and gentlemen. The law of accident. The law of accident. The law of persistence. The law of persistence. The law of persistence. The longer a man is willing to persist in his pursuit in life and ministry, the higher the chance of success. The longer a man is willing to persist in his pursuit in life and ministry, the higher the chance of success. Talking about persistence, talking about perseverance, talking about staying power. Staying power. Staying power. Anyone that lacks staying power will find it very difficult to make the desired progress in life. You know why? There will be challenges. And if you have the mindset that there will always be challenges, what that basically does for you is that it makes it easier for you not to see the challenge as something bad, but rather to prepare adequately to handle the challenge. But rather to prepare adequately in order to be able to handle the challenges. So being able to be persevering, being able to be persistent is something you really cannot do without as human. Perseverance, persistence is the hallmark of success in life, in anything you do. So how long are you willing to persist? And when you are persisting, you are doing the same thing in a different way. Someone like Thomas Edison is doing the same thing in a different way. So he made effort, it didn't work. He went to do it again, but now in a different way. Use another strategy. Use another strategy. I remember there was a time we were trying to do a training and my colleague went to distribute flyers. We distribute thousands of flyers for copper at an event. If 50 have attended, it would have been great. If 10 have attended, it would have been good. If 5 have attended, it would have been wonderful. Only one attend without paying in full. What am I trying to say in essence? What am I trying to say in essence? I'm basically trying to say that that activity taught a lesson that makes us to know a better way to reach out to those people in future. But not to say we are not going to continue again because you did a lot of effort, but few little things happen. You know, in business, there is a saying that don't be too loyal to what is working. Don't be too loyal to what is working, thinking it will not change. But some people are too loyal to what has worked. To be persistent is to find a new way of doing the same thing. Stubbornness is doing the same thing the same way, expect a different result. Someone call it a flavor of lunacy. That's stubbornness. But if I do it this way, it didn't work. I'm still trying to do the same thing, but I now do it in a different way. And if you can be changing and revising, you know what? I will get it. You know, there are different people, notable individuals in our world that have different things to say about persistence. Michelangelo said that you can encounter many defeats in life, but you yourself must not be defeated. This means that you cannot avoid defeat, but you don't have to keep yourself down when you are defeated. Rise up and try again. That's why the Bible says that righteous will fall several times. But you know what? You need to rise up and continue. So that you face a challenge that will things to pull you down. It's not a big deal. Albert Einstein says that it is not that I am so smart. It is just that I stayed with the problem longer than everyone else. I stayed with the problem longer than anyone else. It's not that I am so smart, but I stayed with the problem longer than anyone else. Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein. He stayed with the problem. Barack Obama says that making your mark on the world is hard. If it were easy, everybody would do it. It takes patience, It takes commitment, and it comes with plenty of failures along the way. That is Barack Obama, the first Black president of America, the former US president. He said, making your mark in the world is very hard. If it were easy, everybody will do it. It takes patience, it takes commitment, and it comes with plenty of failures along the way. Plenty of failures. But what will keep you going? Being able to overcome those failures, actually. One of the men that made America, John Rockefeller, says, do not think that there are any other quality that is essential to success of any kind as the power of persistence or perseverance, because it overcomes almost everything in nature. It overcomes almost everything in nature. It overcomes almost everything in nature. John Hopkins. John Hopkins, there's an university named after him in the US, John Hopkins. John Hopkins says, I am not judged by the number of times I failed, but by the number of times I succeed. And he said the number of times you succeed is proportional to the number of times you have failed. I'm not judged by the number of times I failed, but by the number of times I succeed. But that number of times I succeeded is proportional to the number of times I failed. There is a law in selling that says that the higher the number of rejection you get, the higher the chance of sales. The higher the number of rejection you get, the higher the chance of sales. The higher the number of rejection. So fail very much to be able to learn very fast. Benjamin Franklin says that the energy of persistence conquers all things. The energy of persistence conquers all things. Let me round up this particular principle with this man that many of us are very much familiar with, that failed several times. One of the American presidents, Abraham Lincoln, in 1831, lost his job. In 1832, he was defeated in legislation election, but he did not give up. In 1833, he failed in business. In 1835, he lost his wife and yet did not give up. In 1836, he had a nervous breakdown. In 1838, he was defeated in an election to be a Speaker of Illinois. In 1843, he was defeated in Congress election. In 1848, he was defeated again in Congress election. In 1849, he was rejected in a bid to be a land officer. In 1854, he lost the election into US Senate. In 1856, he lost the nomination to be vice president. He lost the nomination to be vice president of the US. In 1858, he lost the election into the US Senate again, but in 1860, he contested for the US president, and guess what? He won. He won. The law of persistence. The law of problem interpretation. The law of problem interpretation. You know, your perspective to problem. The reason why people don't want to do entrepreneurship is because of challenges and problems. And if you don't change your perspective about problem in life, about challenges rather, you won't be able to do anything. You even try anything. You even try anything. You even try anything. There is no such thing as problem. A problem only becomes a problem if you see it as a problem. If you see it as a challenge to be overcome, you develop the desire to overcome, the power to overcome. When you see it as a problem to be overcome, sorry, as a challenge to be overcome. Don't interpret the problem as a problem that cannot be solved, a problem that has come to overwhelm you, to kill you, to destroy you. Interpret it as a challenge that needs to be overcome. It has come to challenge your resolution. It has come to challenge your stand. It has come to challenge your essence. It has come to challenge your value. It has come to challenge your power. It has come to challenge everything about you. See it as a challenge. Very important, ladies and gentlemen. And because you see it as a challenge, you also respond to it in the same manner. Because you see it as a challenge, you also respond to it in the same manner. Please see it as a challenge, not as a problem. See it as a challenge, not as a problem. The reason why we see it as a problem and interpret it as such is because we don't see it as something that we can solve and we can overcome. But if we see it that way, the implication of that is that you become afraid, you become fearful. And you know, fear paralyzes action. Fear paralyzes action. Let me tell you, let me paint a picture to you about interpretation. Interpretation. If you have lost 5K before, and you have given 5K to people before, you will realize something. When you give that 5K to people, you didn't feel anything, you were okay, you were even happy or fulfilled that you were able to help someone. But when you lost even 1K, you feel so bad, you feel horrible, it's as you have lost the whole world. The question you should ask is, what's the difference between the 5K you gave and the 5K you lost? Interpretation. That 5K you gave was voluntarily given. That 5K you lost was more like taken away from you or stolen from you. So that pain of loss makes you to feel so sad and depressed and unhappy, but you have given the same money out before. How come this one becomes so painful? Interpretation. That's the power of interpretation. That's the power of interpretation. That's the power of interpretation. If you do not interpret it correctly, you will find it very tough to handle. So if you see problem as something that has come to challenge you, and that's the reason why few people succeed in different fields, because only few people are able to put the problem in perspective that this is a challenge. If I'm overcome this challenge, it creates for me an advantage over my competition. So if I see it as an opportunity to overcome the challenge, and because when you acquire training, knowledge, skill to overcome that challenge, for anybody to get to that level you are now at, they need to have done what you did. If they are unable to do what you did, it increases your level. It makes you more relevant because it reduces your competition. So the way you interpret the challenge, even when you lose money, for example, when you do business, you lose money. If you see it as a loss, you run away from the business. You run away from the business. But if you see it as R&D, research and development, so that means that money you lost is a means of learning. It helps you to learn something. So that means it has added to your knowledge. So it's like you spend the money on research to research a problem and you have found out how this will not work. So if you see your losses in business as R&D, as cost of research and development. You will have correctly interpreted the problem of loss. And because you have correctly interpreted the problem of loss, it becomes a lot easier for you to make the desired progress in that business. So interpret problem correctly. See it as a challenge to be overcome. Have the mindset that this is a challenge and I can overcome it, and then you overcome it. And interpret those losses, interpret the challenges as creating for you a sustainable competitive advantage over competition when you overcome the challenge. Interpret the losses as expenses for research and development to be able to know what works and what does not work, and thereby creating a more valuable product and service in the business. I want to thank the National Youth Pastor for the opportunity he has given to me to be a blessing to you. And I want to thank God for what you have learned this morning. I believe strongly this will be another, create in you another value and benefit and skill to be able to make whatever business you intend to do a success in Jesus' name. Father, we thank you for today. We glorify your name for what we've learned. Help us to be doers of these things and not hearers only in Jesus' name. Amen.